I want to welcome those of you who are watching live. Appreciate Ronnie opening up along with Tom and Bill, who's running sound and camera. Glad to see everybody here. If you have a Bible, open to Daniel chapter 11. And Tim, I've been going back and forth on this. Should we take the time to read out loud this entire chapter, or should we dialogue and not worry about it? And I'll tell you the reason why. I love this chapter, but hey, by the way, James just published his first book right here. Yeah, called Wake the Lion. Gave me a copy. What's it about, James?
It's a daily devotional for people that are spiritually weary, burnt out.
Beautiful.
Wake up spiritually.
Love that. Yeah, so Wake the Lion by James Davis. And yeah, Coach.
For those of you who don't know, if you have the time, catch James, find out how to find his blog. He has a fantastic blog.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
So,
Substack's good too.
Yeah, yeah. You know, Tim, there's a lot of people in this room. You know, Pastor, you know this. Matt, you know this. Very talented, gifted people that have not been in professional ministry, but they're in the ministry. They're in the kingdom ministry, and James is an example of that. Thank you, Coach. All right, Ronnie, come on up. Appreciate Ronnie and Matt filling in last week. I was able to watch from Mexico, hiding from the police, and it was a really good lesson.
Well, I want to reiterate what Wade just said. You know, there's a lot of people in here that are in the ministry, but actually we all are.
Yeah, exactly.
In the prayer request that is sent out, I have in there 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20. But if you just read that first part, A, we're all ambassadors to Jesus Christ. So let's not forget that at all. I'd like to welcome all those online, those in the room, all those across the country that watch us or will watch us at some point. And I pray that you guys and those in the room, and all those that are around the world get something out of our studies. One thing, this devotional I'm going to read, it's actually not, it's at the end of July of this year, and it's called The Quiet Place of Prayer. Prayer is worship. Our praying should be full of adoration, affection, and fondness for God, that He is who He is, that He created us in order to have someone on whom He could shower His love, that He stretched out His arms on the cross, that He intends in the fullest sense to make whole men and women out of us. In worship, as the old world word worship implies, we declare that we value the most. It's one of the best ways in the world to love God. Prayer is the highest expression of our dependency on God. It's asking for what we want. We can ask for anything, even the most difficult things. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Philippians 4:6. Anything large enough to occupy our minds is large enough to hang a prayer on. Prayer, however, by its nature, is requesting. It's not insisting or clamoring. We can make no demands of God or deals with Him. Friends don't make demands. They ask and then wait. We wait with patience and submission until God gives us what we request or something more. Prayer is asking for understanding. It's the means by which we comprehend what God is saying to us in the Scriptures. Prayer focuses and unites our fragmented hearts. In the quiet place of prayer, God comforts, instructs, and listens to us. There we learn to love and worship Him. Prayer can be difficult because even the disciples asked Jesus, teach us how to pray. And so, you know, it's something we don't ask for personal reasons. We ask for reasons that are contrary, or not contrary, but deep in our heart for those that, is affected. Just like the families on our prayer list that have lost loved ones here recently. There's going to be one that I'm going to add today from Fairview, that his funeral's tomorrow. Well known throughout the whole area, throughout the country actually, for the cattle company that he ran. You guys probably wouldn't know him, but I'm going to place him on there. But prayer, like I say, it's not an easy task. And a lot of people have a hard time praying out loud in front of people. But at this time, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Our very gracious, loving Father, thank you for this day that you've given us, for each day you've given us. But Father, we know that you have something intended for us when you woke us up. Now, Father, I pray that our hearts are awake to hear what you have to say. Father, may you continue to use myself, use these men here, use those online, to continue to spread your word, to spread your love. Because, Father, that's what you are. You are love. Thank you, Father, and help us to understand from your word what you want us to hear, each and every one of us, in Jesus' name. Amen. Also, real quick, again, I'll say it, and I'll probably say it each Tuesday morning, is we're still looking, and I think it's sometime in December, I think it might be December the 19th. It's going to be on Friday this time for our annual hamburger fry.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ronnie. Hey, by the way, good news. I think most of you probably know, but if you don't, Rochelle's last week as the chief nursing officer at St. Mary's Hospital is next week, and she is retiring. And for her retirement gift, I'm taking her to the OU Michigan football game, and she was really excited about that. I'll just tell you. Yeah, no, I'm done. So anyway, she's already planning, doing some training, and what I want to do, James, is do YouTube videos for free, and I want to teach through the scriptures on little short clips, and she's going to be the person I've been missing, Tom, so she's going to work full-time with Astoria, though receive part-time pay. I mean, so looking forward to it and really, really excited about it. All right, let's get started. Daniel chapter 11.
I want to talk to you after the OU Michigan.
Well, okay, I know, John, you're a big Michigan guy, right? Okay, if I were a betting Baptist, I'm just telling you, Oklahoma's not going to let that slip through their fingers because this is probably the biggest game since OU Nebraska in 2000 because it sets the tone for the season. All right, here we go. One singular vision. By way of quick review, as we read Daniel 11 today, just remember, it is part of Daniel 10 through 12. Frankly, you could add Daniel 9, because in Daniel 9, you have a prayer from Daniel petitioning God, help us, help the Jews, help your people, my people, help us. We're in trouble. We repent of our sins. And Gabriel comes in answer to his prayer and gives this vision that we're reading in Daniel 11. And basically, so that you know, Daniel 11 outlines the history of the known world from 500 BC until the coming of Jesus Christ, for 500 years. This is the time period, Warren. This 500 years is the time period between what? The Old Testament and the New Testament, called the intertestamental time period. Daniel 11 lays it out. It's so specific that all the liberals who hate God and deny the Bible for hundreds of years said, an impostor wrote this and said he was Daniel. And it was added to the book of Daniel hundreds of years after Jesus lived. Well, that theory was blown up in 1947 when what happened? The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in 1947, and the entire book of Daniel was in it, which meant that the Jews had read the full book of Daniel for hundreds of years before Christ. And man, it shut the liberals up on this. So, God knows the future. History is His story. By the way, Astoria is the Greek word for story, from which we get our word history. So when you drive by and you see the word Astoria, that it's the Greek word for history or story. And I want to convince you that God knows the story of the world. He knows the story of your life. He has written the date of your birth and the date of your death in His appointment book. And Coach, that's, Mom, if she listens, that's not easy when people die unexpectedly. But it is a comfort for those of us who trust in the eternal kingdom that there are no accidents. And so, Gabriel's coming and saying, look, 77s are determined for your people. That's 490 years. 70 times 7. 77s are determined for your people. Upon your holy city, Jerusalem, this is Daniel 9:27, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity. I want to ask you a question. This verse, Daniel 9:27, who does it sound like Gabriel is talking about? 77s have been determined upon your people and upon your city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity. Who makes reconciliation for iniquity? Jesus!
For the iniquity of whom?
Well, good point. Hang on. For the iniquity of whom? Tim, what would you say?
Israel.
Who is Israel?
Well, it's God's chosen people.
So you and I both believe that He would call us the true Israel, Romans 9, right?
But not until after Jesus.
Well, good point. Okay, so I understand you're making a distinction, but would you
Making a
agree
distinction.
reconciliation for iniquity is the work of Christ?
Yes, but what I'm saying is I think that in the context it has to be restricted to Israel. He's not talking about anybody else's iniquity. Nobody else is in covenant.
Okay, no, I agree.
I mean,
But-
I'm just trying to get to the context of what's going on.
No, I'm with you. But let me ask you, when Jesus made reconciliation for Israel, was it just the nation of Israel? Or was it for all Israel?
Well,
Yeah, that's okay.
the other part of the Israel was not born yet until that reconciliation was made. right?
Absolutely. No,
And so,
absolutely.
in effect, it was both because he's reconciling all of things into himself.
That's all I'm saying.
And so that the Israel as we know it is the Israel you're talking about.
It's all Israel shall be saved.
Right.
It's Christ dying for His people. And that's from every nation, every kindred, every tribe. But what Tim is wanting you not to miss is, in context, it's your people. Your people are coming to an end because the Messiah will make reconciliation for all Israel, which means all of His people from every tribe, kindred, nation, tongue, family, and so on. Yeah, bingo, Jim. So my point to you is this. This is about how long the nation of Israel has left and the coming of the one who will make reconciliation for all Israel, whether it's the nation of Israel or, as Tim just conceded, and what I believe, it's all Israel from every nation. Now, the point is this. Daniel 9:27, by most of the preachers that you grew up listening to, is about the Antichrist, not Christ. So listen, when people get upset because there are Christians who believe different things about the Bible and they say, I'm not going to fellowship with you, Coach, remember Daniel 9:27. There are some of my fellow believers whom I love, who I will spend eternity with, who believe Daniel 9:27 is talking about the Antichrist. And I believe it's talking about Christ. But you know what, Tim? I'm not going to break fellowship with them.
They may break fellowship with you.
But I will not break fellowship with them. And that, to me, that is the ground rule for true Christianity. Don't break fellowship over these disagreements. Iron sharpens iron. Come back at me. Tell me why I'm wrong. This is the, Gene, this is the last prophecy of Daniel. Daniel 9 through 12. His prayer is Daniel 9, Daniel 10 through 12. And I said it's the prophecy of Daniel. Technically, it's the prophecy given to Daniel by Gabriel. And the language Gabriel uses is the exact same language that Gabriel uses when he speaks to Mary. Hail, you who are highly favored. The Lord has sent me to give you. Oh my, I get chills when I think about this. So all Daniel does is record it in his scroll. So, this prophecy, Daniel 10 through 12, by way of review. In the book of Daniel, Daniel's chapters 1 through 5 deals with the Babylonian Empire. Beginning with Daniel chapter 11, verse 2, Matt and Ronnie talked about this last week. It's the Persian Empire. Daniel chapter 11, 3 through 4, 5 through 20, 21 through 26, it's the Grecian Empire. You know nothing about the Grecian Empire. You weren't taught it. I get it. So when you read this, you're like, man, I don't have a clue. Don't worry about it. You're with everybody else. The sad part is, school children until 1900 were all taught what I'm teaching you. School children, public school children. This is Western civilization. Now, if you even mention, I want our public school kids to open their Bible and study Daniel 11, you are put on the wall and crucified. And by the way, the demons of hell, if they still exist, Tim, I believe they do. But if they don't, then whoever it is, human beings, they go bat blank crazy when you start talking about teaching kids the Bible. They think you're trying to proselyte them into Christianity, when in reality, you're showing them the only document that tells us the history of the world in full detail. Make sense? All right, let's go on. Roman Empire, Daniel 11 through 27 through 30. Now, Tim and I agree on this. In Daniel 11, the last portion of Daniel 11, the Roman Empire, the Maccabean revolt against the Greeks. We'll talk about this. The last portion, Daniel 11, 36 through 45, this is what Tim and I agree on, talks about Herod the Great. Martin Luther and many of the reformers said that that last section is about the Roman Catholic Church throughout history. And then they come to Daniel 12, verse 1, and they say Daniel 12, verse 1 and Daniel 12 could be the end of known history. What Tim and I say, Daniel 12, verse 1, and at that time Michael shall rise. And all the discussion of the coming of Christ in Daniel 12 is the fulfillment of everything that is pointed to by Gabriel, the end of the nation of Israel, the beginning of Christ's covenant with His people from all nations on earth, and throughout history this eternal covenant will never end. So, whereas you grew up believing that Daniel 9, 10, 11, 12 is talking about the end of the world, Tim and I are trying to convince you that it's talking about the end of the covenant of God with the nation of Israel and the beginning of the new covenant with all Israel, meaning His chosen people from every nation, kindred, tribe, and tongue. That's by way of review. By the way, before we start reading, we'll answer questions, let Tim say what he would like, and then we'll start reading Daniel 11. Cyrus, this is his tomb. His tomb is in Iran. One of these days, there's an old song that goes, soon and very soon. I think it's going to be soon and very soon. Iran is going to be open. I think I can say this online. In Mexico, we met a couple who run Elam Ministries. Elam is the ancient biblical word for the Persians, the Elamites. For example, in the book of Acts at Pentecost, the Elamites from Persia came. There's a great revival occurring in Elam, in Iran, today among the Persian people. The underground church is exploding. And they agree with me that the Iranian people are attempting to overthrow their government. But it's not easy. Their government is Arabian, Saudi Arabian, and they're Islamic fundamentalists. The Persian people are not Arabian. They're Persians, but they've been dominated since Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah of Iran in the fall of 1979. That's going to soon come to an end. When it does, I want to take people to see Cyrus's tomb. It's located right there on the map. Notice where Daniel lived in Babylon. It's just to the east in what was called Media back then. Today we call it Iran. It was also called Persia in the Bible, and the people of Persia still call it Persia. By the way, that little white thing right here, anybody know what, this is water, by the way. Anybody know what this body of water is called right here? It's the Persian Gulf. It's called the Persian Gulf because of Persia. It's not called the Iranian Gulf.
Also over in that area where Daniel's tomb is supposedly Esther's tomb too.
Oh, absolutely. Esther's tomb, Ezra's tomb, Ezekiel's tomb, and these tombs. Anybody know who these tombs are? This is another place that I want to take people. After Cyrus died, Cambyses II, his son, took the throne. He didn't last for very long. And then here comes Darius, who becomes king of Persia. And then after Darius, you have Xerxes, who married Esther. This is Darius's tomb, right here. This is Xerxes' tomb, right here. The body of Xerxes, husband of Esther, is here. Darius, who fought the battle of, against the Greeks, all the great stories of those great battles between the Persian and the Greeks. He was defeated by the Greeks, and Xerxes took retribution for his father and took his army and his navy at the Battle of Salamis fought the Greeks, and they lost. And that's the beginning of Western civilization. Aristotle, Socrates comes after that. And we are who we are today because the Greeks defeated the Persians. Had the Greeks not defeated the Persians, you and I would probably be speaking Farsi, and our heritage would be from the Persian people, not the Grecian and Roman people. But the kids don't know that today. Daniel 11 teaches us this. The tombs of the Persian kings are in Persepolis. It takes about 2.5 hours to drive from Tehran. Now, I'm going to close with this, and then we'll start reading. After you read the first 4 verses of Daniel 11, which Matt and Ronnie and I have talked about, then you come to the Greeks. Alexander the Great. When the Greeks came under Xerxes and destroyed Athens in 480 BC, if you ever go to Athens, Greece, every building you see, the Parthenon, every single building, was built after 480 BC because Xerxes' armies took it to the ground, burned it. When Alexander was born, his mother taught him to hate the Persians, taught him to hate them. And by the time he was 32, Alexander the Great had conquered all of Persia. This is a map of his conquerings. And by the way, if you ever want to watch, get on Netflix and watch the movie about Alexander the Great. Born in Macedonia. Look at what he did with his army. By the way, I've already told you in the book of Daniel, Alexander is mentioned in Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 9, and it is said by Josephus that when Alexander brought his army to Jerusalem on his way to conquer Egypt, he was going to conquer Jerusalem until the high priest came out and brought the scroll of Daniel, unrolled it, and showed him that the prophecy of their great prophet Daniel said that he would defeat the Persians. And he was so impressed that he told his generals, bypass Jerusalem. Everybody laughed at that story of Josephus. Tim, you know Josephus. When did he live, Josephus? Around the time of the fall of AD 70, right? Because he's recording.
He was taken prisoner. Yeah. Actually, he surrendered. It was taken prisoner, and then they used him on their side to write the history.
Correct.
Of the thing.
So he's
He was a
Jewish.
Jew.
He's a Jew, but the Romans used him to write their history. So when he writes that Alexander comes to Jerusalem and bypasses it because he's shown the scroll of Daniel, the liberals laughed at that, said it's a myth, it's a legend, because Daniel didn't even exist. The book of Daniel didn't even exist when Alexander, came. They laughed until they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think it's just an incredible story. Now here's the deal. The only way you'll ever understand Daniel 11, the only way you'll ever even comprehend what we're about to read, is that Alexander died a month before his 33rd birthday. Anybody know where he died? Take a guess. Who said that? Way to go, Bill. You need to teach Sunday. Are you teaching Sunday school? You need to teach Sunday school. He died in Babylon. You know where he died in Babylon? Take a guess, anybody? The palace. This is where Daniel lived. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. This is what Saddam Hussein was rebuilding on the very spot during the Gulf War. This is what the United States took over in the Gulf War, the Air Force. A group from Enid, where they headquartered in the bedroom where Alexander died. And they would watch Emmanuel on the chest in the bedroom where Alexander died, where Saddam Hussein was rebuilding his house. I mean, what I'm trying to show you is this isn't just Bible myth. This is history. When he died, he had no sons. By the way, he had a son with a woman that he had married from a conquered nation, but he was like 1 or 2 years old. And so all his generals gathered around his bed. And it is said that Alexander distributed his kingdom among the generals. And this is how you understand Daniel 11. One of his generals' name was Seleucus. One of his generals' name was Ptolemy. Even though it starts with a P, T-O-L-E-M-Y, you pronounce it Ptolemy. One of his generals' name was Cassander. Another one was Lysimachus and Antigonus. By the way, I said 4 generals. How many are you counting here? 5. Okay, so why do people say 4? Because in 301 BC, these 4 generals came against Antigonus at the Battle of Ipsus, which is right in the middle of modern-day Turkey. Seleucus got some elephants from India and brought all of the armies together because they couldn't stand Antigonus. And they killed him. And Seleucus took over this portion of the kingdom. But by the way, this is why the future kings of the Seleucid Empire often were called Antiochus after Antigonus. Antiochus Epiphanes. But now watch. If Seleucus takes over this right here, and then Ptolemy is down here, by the way, just who's the last king, or in fact say it like, who's the last queen of the Ptolemaic Empire? Cleopatra, who is defeated by the Romans in a naval battle, comes back to her headquarters with her boyfriend and commits suicide. This is shortly before the coming of Christ. This is outlined in Daniel 11. But now watch. This is the key, and I'll end right here. When Seleucus, the general, and he's Greek, conquers his brother Antigonus with the help of the other generals, who is Greek. Ptolemy, who is Greek. This is the Grecian Empire. In fact, there's another word for Grecian Empire. It starts with an H. Hellenistic Empire. This is the Hellenistic Empire. Even when the Romans conquered the known world and all roads led to Rome, which is way off the map here, all of the Hellenistic customs were still in place, including the language of what? Greek. Which is why the New Testament is written in what language? Greek. Because the Greeks had conquered the known world. So, but here's my point. Here's Israel. Right here. Here's Israel on the coast of the Mediterranean. Small little piece of land. Israel, land of God. Okay? Seleucus takes over Antigonus's property, Turkey. In comparison to Israel, what direction is this right here? North. In comparison to Israel, what direction is this right here? South. When you read Daniel 11, the king of the north and the king of the south, it's the Seleucid Empire of the north and the Ptolemaic Empire of the south. These little two empires, this is Greece, they stayed out. They stayed out of the wars over here. They stayed out of the Middle East wars. By the way, Jim French, the United States could learn a lesson from Cassander and Lysichamus and stay out of the Middle East wars. That's a little political commentary, but I throw that in right now. Okay, Tim, any thoughts? That's introduction question. That's an overview. When we get to the very end of Daniel 11, you're going to read about Herod, who is half Jew, half Idumean, but is in love with the Romans. And he takes over Israel. And Daniel 12, verse 1. Remember, no division chapters in the scroll. And at that time, Michael shall rise. Who is like God shall rise. A title, if you will, for the Messiah. The eternal Son of God. The creator of the universe. Now, questions, comments. Tim, nothing?
I think
overview?
it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's just, historically,
It's pretty straightforward.
keep it in its context.
Keep it in its context, but most people don't know it. Any comments, questions? Anybody? Does it make sense, Stan? Yeah, makes sense. John, north, south, you get that? All right. Let's start reading. By the way, shout out, raise your hand, say something if you don't understand. Draw my attention to it. Howard, feel free to jump in anytime. In the first year of Darius the Mede, I arose to be an encouragement and protection for him. By the way, the one speaking here is Gabriel. Now, someone says, how do you know it's Gabriel? In fact, Matt, I think it was Matt who asked me 2 weeks ago. How do you know it's Gabriel? Gabriel is not named, but his language is the exact same language used in the book of Matthew, Mark, and Luke when Gabriel comes to Mary and says what he says here to Daniel. I arose to be an encouragement and protection for Darius the Mede. Who's Darius the Mede? He's the uncle of Cyrus the Persian. So it's part of the Persian Empire. And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings are going to arise in Persia. Then a 4th will gain far more riches than all of them as soon as he becomes strong through his riches. That's Xerxes. That's Xerxes, husband of Esther. I showed you his tomb. Who will arouse the whole empire against the realm of Greece. Xerxes took the entire Persian Empire to Greece to destroy Greece. They didn't pay taxes, and they defeated his father Darius. So Xerxes, by the way, a really cool story. When I'll show you a map. The only way the Persian army could get to Greece, here's Greece right here. Athens is right here. Look at this. You could do one of two things. You could make a long walk around the Black Sea, and that's really long and hard. Or you could cross right here. Cross right here. It's an isthmus. It's water. So Xerxes had his army build a bridge. Anybody know what happened when they built the bridge? We're talking about 480 BC when he's coming to destroy Athens. Anybody remember what happened when he built that bridge? A storm came. I mean, we know this from the history books. A storm came, and Xerxes got so angry, he took his whip out. And he whips, he stands at the shore, and he whips the sea. He whips the sea, and he commands the storm to come to an end. It didn't. and the storm destroyed the bridge. So you know what Xerxes did? He killed the engineers who built the bridge. He executed them. And then told the next group of engineers to build a better bridge, which they did. And they crossed and went and destroyed Athens. This is the guy. That's accountability. You know, when people say Trump is a dictator, you're fired. You know, he just fired the Board of Reserve person who fraudulently took out loans lying on federal documents. Are you kidding me? That's a felony. He fired her. They said, oh, he's a dictator. No, let me tell you who a dictator is. It's a man who takes a whip and whips the sea and then kills the engineers whose bridge was destroyed by a storm. See, if you don't know history, then you're going to think Trump's a dictator. If you know history, you're going to think he's like Mary Poppins. All right, verse 4. Sorry about that. Verse 3. Well, yeah, well, okay. Mary Poppins is a stretch. Thank you, Tom. Verse 3. And a mighty king will arise, and he will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. That's Xerxes. But as soon as excuse me, that's Alexander the Great. Thank you, Ronnie. Matt, I apologize. A mighty king will arise, that's Alexander the Great, and he will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. I love it. When a layman, what did you do, Ronnie? What did you do out at the plant?
I was a production foreman.
I love it when a production foreman corrects a guy who writes books on the Hebrew. I'm reading a verse and say incorrectly, that's Xerxes, and I'm corrected by a production foreman and said, no, that's Alexander the Great. Where else can that happen? Good for you, Ronnie. But as soon as he is arisen, that's Alexander, his kingdom will be broken up and parceled out toward the 4 points of the compass, north, south, east, and west. And though not to his own descendants, remember, he had one son who was 1 or 2 years old by a woman he married of a kingdom he conquered, nor according to his authority which he yielded. He died at the age of 32. For his sovereignty will be uprooted and given to others besides them. By the way, do you see that little phrase? I'm reading from the NAS, James. It says, his sovereignty, Alexander the Great, his power shall be uprooted. Who has the power to uproot the sovereignty of an earthly king? God. God. By the way, everybody says, oh, we're scared of Putin. When God determines to uproot Putin, Putin will no longer be. That's what the Bible teaches us. Verse 5. Now here we go. Then the king of the south will grow strong. Look at this. Who's the king of the south? Ptolemy. The king of the south will go strong. That's Egypt. Along with one of his princes, and he will gain ascendancy over him and obtain dominion. His dominion will be great dominion indeed. After some years they will form an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south will come to the king of the north to carry out a peaceful arrangement. But she will not retain her position of power, nor will he remain with his power, but she will be given up along with those who brought her in, and the one who sired her, as well as he who supported her in those times. But one of the descendants of her line will arise in his place, and he will come against their army, and enter the fortress of the king of the north. Who's the king of the north? Seleucus. Seleucus, who had conquered Antigonus. So a Ptolemaic king will come and take and battle the king of the north. Also, verse 8, their gods with their metal images and their precious vessels of silver and gold, he will take into captivity to Egypt. And he on his part will refrain from attacking the king of the north for some years. Then the latter will enter the realm of the king of the south, but will return to his own land. Okay, now watch. I want to show you something. Yeah, go ahead.
Back under 5, king of the south will become strong, but one of his commanders will become stronger. So what's that change there?
Yeah. Stan is asking a question about verse 5. When you get home, I'm going to give you and I'm going to answer your question, Stan, but I'm going to do it by showing you how you can find the answer for yourself. Okay? So you don't have to come to Tuesday morning and so on. So Stan, you're asking about verse 5, right? Okay. Google, take a snapshot right here. Here a little, there a little. I'm going to show you. Have you seen it, Tim? Mm-mm. Here a little, there a little. Google it. Now, let me show you how to do it. I think I can do it on the screen. I'm going to go to Chrome, and I'm going to Google here a little, there a little, Daniel 11. Right here. Now look at this. Just to show you, Stan, Daniel 11:5, right? Here's what he says. He goes through the history of this time. Alexander's death, the distribution of his kingdom into 4 empires. After much jockeying, that's right above Daniel 11:5, and fighting for position, Alexander's empire was divided into 4 major portions. Cassander ruled over Greece, Lysachemus ruled in Asia Minor, Seleucus and Nicator ruled Babylon and Persia, and I would add Syria. Ptolemy ruled over the Holy Land in Egypt. Also the king of the south, verse 5, became strong, as well as one of his princes, and he shall gain power over him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. 20 years later, this is 20 years after the Battle of Ipsus, when Antigonus was defeated. Seleucus killed Lysachemus in battle. Only 2 dynasties remained after that. The north and the south. That's all that was left. That's what he's referring to. So the prince that was growing strong, that was defeated, was Lysachemus by Seleucus. And that happened 20 years after the Battle of Ipsus, when Antigonus was defeated. Now we go on. Daniel 11:6. Let me just show you about the daughter of the king of the south who went to the king of the north, and there was a marriage that took place. That would be, what verse is that? Okay, verse 6. Look what he says. This is here a little, there a little. This is a commentary on verse 6. By the way, this guy's a historian. He's really good. In 249 BC, king of the south, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, sent his daughter Bernice to king of the north, Antiochus II Theos. His plan, that is the king of the south's plan, was to stop the war that was raging. It's called the Second Syrian War. And unite the 2 kingdoms, the king of the north, the kingdom of the north, the kingdom of the south, or the Seleucus kingdom and the Ptolemaic kingdom, to unite them through marriage. By the way, this was a pattern throughout ancient history. One king would send one of his daughters to the north to marry a prince of the other empire. And then there would be a peace treaty because of this. Unfortunately, this plan had a flaw. Antiochus II, king of the north, was already married. Because he knew, however, his marriage to Ptolemy II's daughter, king of the south's daughter, would ensure peace and allow him to regain most of the Syrian possessions that his father had lost to the king of the south, Antiochus II put away his wife Laodice and married Berenice. This is in the history books. This was written 200 years before it happened. It's crazy.
So I guess on my question is, it doesn't mention who one of the commanders that became stronger than Ptolemy was.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I.
It doesn't mention,
Okay.
but the deduction is that commander is Lysachemus. One of the original 4 became strong, but he is then defeated by Seleucus. And when that defeat happens in 281, there's only 2 kingdoms left. The northern and the southern. The Seleucus Empire, or Seleucid Empire, and the Ptolemaic Empire. North and south. So, great question, Stan. Anybody else have a question? But this little help right here, here a little, there a little, you can just walk through all of Daniel 11, and he'll tell you its fulfillment in history.
It may be obvious, but the reason why Israel's so central to this is because to get to one another, they have to pass through Israel.
Very good, Tim. The reason it's called North and South, by the way, if somebody else was writing this, if somebody from India was writing it, I don't know that they'd use the term North and South. Why? Because Tim is like Israel is right in the middle between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. From their perspective, it's north and south, and to get to one of the other kingdoms, you had to pass right through Israel.
This is another reason why I say that the story is about Israel.
Agreed. I don't disagree with that
Not
at
about
all.
the world.
Yeah, it's about Israel coming to an end. The problem is, when you say what Tim is saying, when you say what I'm saying, when you say what here a little, there a little is saying, then you go to your average Southern Baptist church and you say, look, the nation of Israel, in terms of God's chosen people, has come to an end. Now God's chosen people are those who come to faith in Christ, whether they're Jew or Gentile. I mean, they're like, you're a heretic. We defend Israel because they're God's chosen people. No, you should defend your next door neighbor who doesn't have any food because he's God's chosen people. Does that make sense? Now, you might believe differently than I, and I'll fellowship with you, but you're going to have to deal with me when you study Daniel 11. All right, let's go on. Verse 10. His sons. By the way, this is where it gets a little difficult because the pronoun his, you have to ask yourself, who is it? The king of the north or the king of the south? Whose sons? The Seleucid kings or the Ptolemaic kings? Well, at verse 9, he's talking about the king of the south. He will return to his own land. So, this is the Seleucid king, and Antigonus II, who returns to his own land, which is what we would call Syria today, and his sons will mobilize and assemble a multitude of great forces, and one of them will keep on coming and overflow and pass through, that he may again wage war up to his very fortress. The king of the south will be enraged. In other words, the king of the south, the Ptolemaic kingdom, will be enraged because the son of the northern king is coming to fight. He will be enraged and he'll go forth and fight with the king of the north. Then the latter will raise a great multitude. The latter is the king of the north. But that multitude will be given into the hand of the former, that is the king of the south. When the multitude is carried away, his heart will be lifted up, and he will cause 10,000s to fall, yet he will not prevail, for the king of the north will again rise, and a greater multitude than the former. And after an interval of some years, he will press on with a great army and much equipment. What you've got here, guys, and I could go back to the map. In fact, I will go back to the map, but I'll keep this up. Go back to here a little, there a little. Stan, when you read that and make that part of your study, Daniel 11 will just come alive because he'll help walk you through history and you can read it for yourself. But basically, what you're reading, and will come, I'll show it to you on the screen. It's very simple. It's very simple. You have two mighty kingdoms, Egypt and Syria. The Seleucid kingdom, which is based in Syria, and the Ptolemaic kingdom based in Egypt. They try intermarriage to unite. It doesn't work. Then the son of Antiochus II, by the way, Antiochus Epiphanes, Matt, is Antiochus IV. So all the kings of the north go Antiochus, 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 Antiochus. It's like Xerxes. It's a pharaoh. It's like a title. It's like a title. The first, the second, the third, the fourth. Let me turn that off. But what you've got are battles between the north and the south. So you've got armies coming here, battles occurring. By the way, anybody want to take a guess at what valley most of these battles occurred in? The Valley of Armageddon. Megiddo, which is just north of Jerusalem. Because as Tim said, you're passing through this land right here. This is history. Megiddo is where all the great battles took place. All right, let's go on. Verse 14. Now in those times many will rise up against the king of the south. The violent ones among your people will also lift themselves up in order to fulfill the vision, but they will fall down. Then the king of the north will come, cast up a siege ramp, and capture a well-fortified city. And the forces of the south will not stand their ground, not even their choicest troops, for there will be no strength to make a stand. But he who comes against him will do as he pleases, and no one will be able to withstand him. He will also stay for a time in the beautiful land. Somebody help me out. What's the beautiful land?
Israel.
Israel. Jerusalem, the capital. This section you're reading, and you can go to here a little, there a little. This is Antiochus IV. Antiochus Epiphanes. He comes, and Ptolemy, the king of the south, can't withstand him. He is a powerful king, and he spends a little time in the beautiful land. By the way, this was written hundreds of years before it happened. Now, if you want to know what he did in the beautiful land, I'll tell you. He put the great Greek god Zeus, a statue, in the Holy of Holies in Jerusalem. And then he ordered the priest of Israel not to offer lambs as a sacrifice to Yahweh, but, Matt, to offer what? Pigs to Zeus. And one of the priests who was ordered by a Seleucid soldier to slaughter a pig, and by the way, the city, Warren, in which he was ordered, our guide for Israel, Uval, he was born in that city, where the priest of the Maccabees, in fact, Judas Maccabeus was his name. Maccabees means hammer. He was ordered to kill the pig. He took the knife and he killed the soldier. And then he told his 7 sons, all right, we're not living under this oppression. We are going to cleanse the temple. And the Maccabean revolt occurred. You read about it, Tim? The Maccabean where?
2 Maccabees chapter 5.
2 Maccabees chapter 5, which is in the Catholic Bible. That's not in our Bible. And that revolt that occurred was successful. The Greeks were kicked out of Jerusalem. The idol of Zeus was removed. And the temple was restored. It is called the festival of Hanukkah. Hanukkah. They had no oil for the menorah in the temple that they had brought back from Babylon when they were released. They had no oil, but they lit it anyway. And according to the Jewish tradition, that menorah stayed lit for 7 days. And so, anytime you ever say Happy Hanukkah at Christmas, you're basically wishing the Jews a blessing for their military defeat of the Greeks. It has nothing to do with Christmas. Nothing. And you just read about it right here in the beautiful land. All right, let's go on. Verse 18. Then he will turn his face to the coastlands and capture many. But a commander will put a stop to his scorn against him. Moreover, he will repay him for his scorn. So he will turn his face toward the fortresses of his own land, but he will stumble and fall and be found no more. That's the death of Antiochus Epiphanes. Verse 20. Then one in this place will arise, will send an oppressor through the jewel of his kingdom, yet within a few days he will be shattered, though not in anger nor in battle. In his place a despicable person will arise, of whom the honor of kingship has not been conferred, but he will come in a time of tranquility, seize the kingdom by intrigue. The overflowing forces will be flooded away before him and shattered, also the prince of the covenant. After an alliance is made with him, he will practice deception. He will go up and gain power with a small force of people. In a time of tranquility, he will enter the richest parts of the realm, and he will accomplish what his fathers never did, nor his ancestors. He will distribute plunder, booty, and possessions among them. He will devise his schemes against strongholds, but only for a time. He will stir up his strength and courage against the king of the south with a large army. So the king of the south will mobilize an extremely large and mighty army for war, but he will not stand for the schemes he will be devised against him. Those who eat his choice food will destroy him. His army will overflow, but many will be fall down slain. As for both kings, their hearts, both the king of the north and the south, their hearts will be intent on evil. They will speak lies to each other at the same table, but it will not succeed, for the end is still to come at the appointed time. Tim, help us out. For the end is still to come at an appointed time. The end of what?
It's the end of that age, the
Yes.
end of that covenant time, the
Yeah,
end of Israel.
if you go back to the prayer of Daniel, he says, our people are going to be destroyed. And Gabriel comes and says, not yet, not yet. And when it says, the end is still to come, by the way, the battle that we just read right there, king of the north, king of the south, and so on, go to here a little, there a little, and you'll see it in history. But what Gabriel is saying is, the end of your people is not yet. Verse 28. Then he will return to his land with much plunder, but his heart will be set against the holy covenant. He will take action, then return to his own land. At the appointed time, he will return and come into the south, but this last time it will turn out the way it did before. Not turn out the way it did before. For ships of Kittim will come against him, therefore he will be disheartened, will return, become enraged at the holy covenant, take action, so he will come back and show regard for those who forsake the holy covenant. Forces from him will arise, desecrate the sanctuary forces, and do away with the regular sacrifice. Here we go. By the way, let me take a look here. Here a little, there a little, back here.
Do you have,
Matt,
do you have anything to connect the ships of Kittim with Rome?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where
Correct.
the turning point.
By the way, you get down here, guys, we're verse 31. I jumped ahead, Matt, and I apologize for that, because here is Antiochus IV in the section that we're reading. I believe up above, when I said it was Antiochus IV, it's like Antiochus III. This is how it can get so confusing, because you've got several kings that come in succession. But right here, Antiochus IV, ships of Kittim will come against him. Tim says, is there any tie to Rome in this? Rome is rising now. Antiochus IV is having to deal with Rome. Forces from him will arise, desecrate the sanctuary fortress, do away with the regular sacrifice. This is the Jewish sacrifice. And he, the king, Antiochus IV, will set up the abomination of desolation. That is the statue of Zeus. By smooth words he will turn to godlessness those who act wickedly toward the covenant, but the people who know their God will display strength and take action. By the way, the Maccabees are deemed to be the people who know their God and display strength and take action. They resist the Greeks. Those who have insight among the people will give understanding to the many, yet they will fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by plunder for many days. Now when they fall, they will be granted a little help, and many will join them in hypocrisy. Some of those who have insight will fall in order to refine, purge, and make them pure until the end time. Tim, let me ask you again. What is the end time?
It's the appointed end of that time of Israel.
Correct.
The end of that covenant time.
Because it is still to come at the appointed time. The end of your people.
Maybe it'd be easier to look on it in a more positive if you understand that the end of that time is the beginning of the
The new
goal of the whole thing, which is the new covenant.
Christ.
So think of the end as a beginning. Where they're headed to is where God's always been headed to. And that's a covenant where you can't fall out of it, a covenant that's not dependent upon you, but upon what He has done. So.
Excellent. We're going to stop right there. Next week we're going to conclude Daniel 11, because what we just did in those verses that we read, and I thought about not doing it, but I think it was helpful. We just walked through how the kings of the north, who are always called either Antiochus the first, the second, the third, the fourth, by the way, there were like 7 of them, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, then the kings of the south, Egypt. By the way, all the queens were called Cleopatra 1, Cleopatra 2, Cleopatra 3, Cleopatra 4, all the way to Cleopatra 7. Now we've got the Romans coming. And what do the Romans do? They defeat both the kings of the north and the kings of the south, meaning the Seleucid kingdom and the Ptolemaic kingdom. Great stories. And Rome rises, but they keep the Greek customs, the Hellenistic customs. And then at this time, we're going to look at Herod the Great. We're going to look at the Roman Empire. And then 12 verse 1. This is what Tim said. 12 verse 1. 12 verse 1. Now at that time, Michael shall rise. The King shall come. The King of Kings. Now, if you say, Wade, but I thought Michael was an archangel. All I can say to you is this, that's what you were taught. But if you go back and read the Reformers, every single one of them said Michael is not a name, it's a title. He is God over the angels. And Gabriel even says, I couldn't even have done what I did unless Michael came to assist me. This is the pre-incarnate Christ. Okay, we'll talk about it next week. I know it's a lot, but I really think if you get in your head Daniel 11, you will never be shaken by all the stupid stuff that is going on in our world today, in all the nations that are at war. God bless you.
What verse did you read on?
We'll start with 36.